Hey guys, remember to like the video and hit subscribe.
Today, I want to talk about the biggest myth of the national obesity epidemic. The biggest myth is that if you're obese or overweight, it's your fault. Today, 3/4 of American adults are obese or overweight, including 40% of American teenagers. Back when I was growing up, childhood obesity was almost unheard of. But you don't need statistics to know that something has changed. Look at the photographs of beaches or state fairs from the 1950s. Something has changed, and it isn't human nature. We haven't suddenly become lazy or gluttonous. What has changed is our food system, our diets, and the hormone-disrupting chemicals in our food, in our water, in our soil. We are being mass poisoned. Today, they tell you that you have obesity like it was some kind of contagious disease. They treat it as if your body malfunctioned, and they give you a shot to control it. Or they make it about your lack of self-control. Well, that's an insult to anyone who has tried and struggled to lose weight.
He's so correct about some things, and then he's just so off on other things. Okay.
So what are they ignoring when they make it all about you and your body and your willpower and your character? And the solution is always a shot or a pill that somebody is going to cash in on. What they're ignoring is a food supply that's loaded with high fructose corn syrup and seed oils and hundreds of artificial additives and flavors and processed carbohydrates that don't exist in nature and that are banned in other countries. They ignore a skewed system of subsidies and make these unnatural, ultra-processed foods cheap. They ignore chemical contamination from pesticides that is wreaking havoc on our body. Now, let me tell you what we're going to do about it. We're going to change the subsidies so that everyone can afford safe and wholesome food. We're going to get industry money out of government so that consumers and doctors can actually trust our agencies again. We're going to make school lunches nutritious again. We're going to ban harmful chemicals from the food supply. We're not going to force or coerce or shame anyone. We're going to lower the costs and lower the barriers and get rid of the perverse incentives and clean out the chemicals so that the American people won't be swimming upstream anymore.
Just as a heads up, everybody in this country can afford healthy food, except for maybe homeless people. Maybe. I'm not even sure about that if you apply for some or whatever. People don't buy it because the other shit tastes way better and it's way more convenient.
With soup of toxic substances just to be healthy.
Okay, I don't know.
The least impactful factor are things like nutritional education, things like do you live in a food desert or not, and many other very small ones that people talk about all the time. And that sort of like 20% eats up all of the other small factors. There are two big factors that I think account for up to 80% of the entire obesity epidemic.
We've heard him say these before. It's going to be, is it conscientiousness and food drive?
One factor is that some people have a higher than average genetic, mostly food drive. And that food drive is what allows them to find meaning in chasing down tasty foods, eating tasty foods, really liking it and eating more of them. If you don't have very high...
What's your take on taking the convenience out of processed/fast food to force people into healthier food? It's good. That's what you have to do. The reality is that when you're in normal society, so when you're just like people talking to people, people will say things about like, we need to make better choices and people should just make the right choice, choose better and do the right thing. But like when you go to the world of like engineering, I'm talking like Elon Musk, I think from like an engineering perspective, it should be when you engage with a thing, what are you organically drawn to do with it? And then that's what you engineer around. You would never, ever, ever, ever design a thing expecting people to make the right choice. You design a thing so that people are naturally drawn towards making the right choice, right? So when it comes to designing websites, like the question is like, where are your eyes drawn towards? Or do you have to click through too much bullshit? Even when it comes to civil engineering, like designing roads, it's not just like, let's put a stop sign here to make people stop, or let's put a speed limit thing here to make people slow down. It's like, how do you curve the roads to make them safer? Or do you put like speed bumps or humps in areas to make people slow down? Like the engineering of the streets themselves are supposed to lend themselves towards different types of driving styles depending upon how you want people to drive, right? And this is true of every single thing ever that is created for human use. But for some reason, when you talk, and I think people know this and people understand this intuitively, but then when you talk to people about other things, like, I don't know, when you remove yourself from an engineering environment, you're just talking like, oh, people just need to make better choices. But you would never, ever, ever say this. You would never, ever say this for anything else ever. It's just
high food drive. It's difficult for you to become obese because you're just not that excited about eating. If you have very high food drive and the environment is such that you have lots of money relative to the world around you and food is relatively convenient and cheap and easily available and doesn't like require tons of hours to make, then you have a situation where you can kind of checkbox all of your desires in food drive, and then that's an easy way to get obese. So food drive is huge. And if we can reduce food drive, which we can with some kinds of bariatric surgery and with modern anorectic drugs like Ozempic and stuff, that's a really, really, really big deal. You can also modulate food drive with food choices, a little bit more difficult to do, but definitely possible. So it's all the rest, food drive, and then conscientiousness is a trait. It's one of the ocean big five personality traits. Everyone has a little bit, a decent amount, or a lot of conscientiousness on average. And conscientiousness is kind of like, how do you think of you and the world around you? Are you more meticulous and careful and organized? Do you plan ahead? Do you care about your health? Are you willing to delay gratification to do the not so fun things now, like eat with really good healthy foods you might not want? You want pizza rolls, but you're like, I know that's bad for me, so I'm going to put that off and eat that only occasionally. I'm going to make good choices. I'm going to follow a diet. I'm going to stick to a training plan, et cetera, et cetera. Trait conscientiousness has such a huge effect on that for whatever amount of food drive you have, if you have moderate even food drive, high degree of conscientiousness can keep you free from obesity because you just stick to the stuff that doesn't make you obese.
So what's the solution? VATs? Yeah, basically, you have to like super hardcore tax the out of it, or make some forms of food illegal. It.
If your food drive is insanely high, even high degree of conscientiousness can't keep up with that, and it just takes so much energy and so much stress, you might not be able to. You'll still be overweight. If you have low food drive, you're probably not going to be obese in any case because you just don't eat enough. You guys all have that friend that like...
Seriously, we have the obesity cure, Ozempic. What's the issue? I don't know when August is publishing our talk, but me and him talk about this quite a bit, actually. Like one of the points he brings up, I think in our talk is, I don't know if this got published on YouTube or not yet, but he mentions how like there might be like a black market for Doritos. And my response is that would be fine. Like imagine if Doritos were things that you went on Friday and like bought on like some black market shit, and that was just like a recreational drug that you ate. That would be way better than incorporating it into your ordinary diet, right? If super sweet ultra processed foods became like black market recreational drugs, then that the consumption of them would be dramatically lower. You know, that'd be fine. You know, like that would be much more preferable to the environment that we live in now. You know,
has a chip and I was like, I'm good. And you're like, what? How do you have just one? This is just what they were born.
There's also a worry that and when I say there's a worry, I mean, I'm the only person, I don't know if anybody else thinks this, but one thing that I would worry about is it possible that you could create foods that are so tasty and so good that they overcome the Ozempic, I guess, modulation, the whatever the GP1 agonists are doing, that they are able to overcome that because they're so good and so addictive and so tasty. Then you're living in like a world of addictive food.
Born into, but if you have relatively low conscientiousness, like you're kind of just YOLOing your whole life, and you have a high food drive, which means like you like to eat a lot of really tasty foods and a lot of them, and in our current environment in the entire modern world, there's so much ubiquitously available, convenient, super delicious food that is high in calories. You have low conscientiousness and high food drive, you're almost certainly going to be obese. And that right there describes the entire reason approximately for why anyone, if a given person is or isn't obese.
How the f would you convince people to vote in favor of restricting their food choices? I don't know. I don't know how. I need to study this. We did it with cigarettes somehow, and we did it in a very short amount of time in the United States in like an unbelievable way. Like if you were to go back to the 90s and you were to ask somebody about cigarette smoking, or even the 2000s, I would have never predicted that you would make cigarette smoking uncool. Cigarette smoking is like the coolest thing in the world, and it still is. And it's a good drug. It's a stimulant, so it makes you sharp. You feel smart when you do it. You're not a loser that smokes weed. Everybody who's cool smokes cigarettes, and they look cool smoking cigarettes. All the people that I grew up watching, okay, my Spike Spiegels, my Solid Snakes, every cool movie action guy, like all of them smoke cigarettes. Like I would have never imagined, like, yeah, even in anime, they're smoking cigarettes. I would have never imagined that like in 10 years, smoking would have been relegated to loser status in society. That was just insane. Yeah, that was just, I don't know how they did it, but Jesus.
It's a combination of some other factors which are important, and then massive contributor of food drive, massive contributor of conscientiousness to modify how you express that food drive. That's really the big thing. And I'll talk about a little bit why obesity used to be with roughly similar degrees of conscientiousness.
Do you agree with Mike's 3 points? I feel 2 and 3 are overblown. No, I think he's probably right. This number 1 just doesn't matter much at all. I might even say lower, like less than 20%. Well, it really depends on how you quantify like environment here, because like food literacy and stuff, but I don't know if this counts as food literacy, but like habits that are instilled in you at an early age can probably carry through your lifetime a bit. If you would include that, then I would up the percentage here. But I mean, some people like to eat, some people are low in conscientiousness, but I think the biggest contributing thing here is is the environment that we live in now, which we can change. Although he says with the environment as it exists today, but like, I mean, for instance, if you talk about, give me a line graph. Don't we have one that goes back further? But I mean, I mean, even looking at this, severe obesity has doubled. Ordinary obesity has gone up by 30%, more, 35%, 40%. Like, what happened? What changed here? Did we have a significant societal change in genetic food drive and conscientiousness? No, our food environment changed a lot, you know? But it depends on like, it just depends on where your analysis is here. Like if you're talking on a strict heritability level, meaning given the same environment, how can you explain the differences? Then I probably would agree with this. But I mean, obviously the change in environment here is what's driving the massive increase in obesity and overweightness in the Western world, you know?
Calories, you have low conscientiousness and high anyone, if a given person is or isn't obese. It's a combination of some other factors which are important, and then massive contributor of food drive, massive contributor of conscientiousness to modify how you express that food drive. That's really the big thing. And I'll talk about a little bit why obesity used to be, with roughly similar degrees of conscientiousness and similar degrees of food drive, why generations ago obesity.
So ironically, RFK Jr. might actually change the environment to make it healthier. I mean, he could luck into some things that would make it healthier, yeah. But that you just have to take the bad with the good, I guess. Like the fixation on like high fructose corn syrup, and like toxic metals or microplastics in your balls, like doesn't matter that much. But if he eliminates high fructose corn syrup and we switch over to like exclusively natural sugars, like the food would probably become more expensive, or people would make it less sweet to keep the price the same, which would help you, but not because we got rid of high fructose corn syrup, just because we in effect basically made sugar a little bit more expensive. So I don't know.
Obesity was hardly ever a problem. I'll just say it now. It's because over time, people, on average, have gotten so much wealthier, especially poorer people. The bottom fifth of all the poorest Americans in any 5-year time span have been getting wealthier on average compared to all the products and services they could buy. It used to be in the 1950s that if you were bottom, 20% of poor America, there's lots of convenient, fun foods at the store that you really could not afford. And so you just didn't consume them, and you just did not develop obesity because you could either consume them hardly at all or certainly enough quantity to make you obese. Nowadays, in the 2020s, our poorest people in the United States and many other countries around the world, even in Mexico, which used to be a poor country 20, 30 years ago, but now is a very middle income country. In those kinds of situations, people now, even the poorest people, have so much money and food costs relatively so little that they can afford to buy, for the first time ever, increasing numbers, junk food, for lack of any better term, junk food. And that's what's making us fat. So that really is almost the entire determining factor for why obesity has been rising. I'll get into that more. Let's see what RFK has to say here.
Like I think I kind of agree with that, sure.
Today, 3/4 of American adults are obese or overweight, including 40% of American teenagers.
That's roughly accurate.
Back when I was growing up, childhood obesity was almost unheard of.
There's just a very simple reason for that. People didn't have enough money to indulge convenient, super highly palatable, super calorie dense, delicious foods. And
like he's saying people didn't have enough money, and that's kind of true, but also these foods have also probably gotten a lot cheaper over time as well, right? So it's like they're meeting in the middle. It's not just people have gotten wealthier, but like these things have become more available as well.
Those foods were neither as cheap relatively, even for how much money people had,
sure,
nor were they as ubiquitously available. There just wasn't a place to go in the 1940s where you could reliably get all the junk food you wanted right away in 50 different varieties. Like the modern grocery store is goated. It's undefeated. You just didn't used to have that kind of thing, and it was more expensive, and people had less money. Those three factors, people had less money, shit was more expensive, and way less available ubiquitously, is really the reason fundamentally why obesity was lower back then and more now. And I want to say this now because it sets the tone for the rest of the video. The reason lots of people are obese is from overeating junk food. Guys, that's it. Okay, all the other candidate hypotheses he's going to throw out are almost certainly going to be either exaggerated or false.
I think if by junk food he's also just including like ultra processed, like super simple foods in general, then I would agree with this. This is true, yeah. Oh, yeah, this is basically my take, yeah. Good job, he copied me. No, I'm just kidding. Like, people are just fat because there's a lot of really cheap, really tasty food that's available that everybody can buy. It's super convenient. Like, that's like 95% of our issue. All the other weird fixated shit is retarded.
Guys, that's it. Okay, all the other candidate hypotheses he's going to throw out are almost certainly going to be either exaggerated or false. That's it. Now, does that mean we blame people? Blame is a weird concept. Do people have some responsibility for what goes into their mouth? Yeah. Does that mean they're infinitely powerful against a really high food drive or the availability of tasty foods everywhere? No. People are flawed, but it's okay to say, look, part of this is on you, part of this is on other stuff, but this is really what it is. And the real core variable is you just eating too much BS and super tasty foods that have tons of calories in them, and you just aren't doing enough about restricting yourself from that. That really is why obesity happens. I'm not coming at this from a right-wing or left-wing perspective. This is just base reality. And we have to work with base reality if we're going to have some good solutions. He does propose some stuff. Some of it's not great stuff because it's not dealing with base reality. Just real quick, is it true as a rule that processed foods are worse? It's true on average, but not as a rule. Why? There are different ways to process foods, and the eventual food is really the arbiter of is it good for you, bad for you, or somewhere in between. The processing itself matters. So for example, if you're processing foods by getting way more sugars into them, way more fats into them, way more preservatives into them, and making them ultra, super tasty, so tons of calories and tons of taste enhancement, then that kind of processing will lead people to eat more of the food and get fatter and get into poor health. So that kind of processing, which is like most food processing, is not great. There are other kinds of food processing that actually enhance the qualities of foods and get us the foods to be more what we like. For example, if you take milk and you remove the carbohydrates, you remove the fats, and you keep in one of the two proteins, either whey or casein, what you get is a whey or casein protein supplement. And that's very highly processed, but very, very good for your health. And if you're trying to control calories, it's better for your health than whole fat, whole carb milk. So there, it increases the actual value. And you have processing down to a very fine-grained level to accomplish very specific things. For example, one of the supplements that I use pretty consistently is called Element. And we got a code, link in the bio and all that stuff. But what it does is it just...
Element. LMNT, cute.
A crap load of really correct ratios of electrolytes into a little packet. You pour it in to your workout shake, and having more electrolytes lets your workout shake get into your bloodstream faster. It keeps you hydrated and rehydrated better, so that you can have better repeat performances during and after the session. And so it's all good all around. Like, Element is insanely processed. It's only processed, but because it's all the right salts in combination with a few flavorings, it's super at least neutral for your health. And in the context of enhancing sport performance and promoting hydration, it's actually really great. As long as you're not salt sensitive, you don't have a blood pressure issue, you're good to go. So check out Element. That's a really dope thing to check out. But just as an illustration, not all processed foods are bad, but the processing that's not great is if it's making the food super high in calories, super tasty, and you're not controlling yourself. That's how processed food is bad, and that's a totally valid thing.
Today, they tell you that you have obesity like it was some kind of contagious disease. They treat it as if your body malfunctioned, and they give you a shot to control it.
RFK just said,
I still don't know what electrolytes are. In the United States, in order to kind of not kill everybody when police are out there like enforcing the streets, sometimes they use things like tasers and stuff on you. Electrolytes are just things that you drink to make it so that your body can still conduct electricity so that the police can subdue you using nonviolent means. Because if you don't drink any electrolytes, your body doesn't produce electricity, and when they shoot you with the taser, it doesn't do anything.
they'll give you a shot to control it. The thing is that a ton of high palatability, very delicious foods for very cheap, very conveniently, you apply that to people with any given food drive genetically. And the people with a high food drive, they get real fat. People with average food drive, they gain weight, but they don't get super fat, just a little overweight. The people with low food drive, it basically hardly affects them at all, or makes them, actually brings them up to a healthier weight, because otherwise it would be like morbidly thin. What are we supposed to do about that? We've already, almost everybody knows you're not supposed to eat junk food. They do anyway, they don't care. Guys, we have a giving problem in America. We do not have a knowledge problem in America. And some of these folks, they just...
Why do we subsidize corn syrup anyway? I wouldn't be able to tell you. The answer is going to be probably really complicated. I can give you like meme answers that I learned when I was younger, but I don't know how true it is. I think basically corn manufacturers, corn growers, farmers, agriculture people, they like the subsidies because it encourages them to grow a ton of corn. People found a way to kind of use it in like fuel. I think that's like ethanol-based fuels. And then people kind of found a way to use it with our food, with the high fructose corn syrup stuff. And I think that big corn, unironically, just the farmers love that subsidy. They get a lot of money from the government for it. They grow a lot of corn because they get huge subsidies for it, and then everybody uses it for everything because it's so cheap because of that. It's just retarded, I think. But maybe there's a better explanation, but that's what I learned. I learned it's just like fucked. It's just not a good situation. But somebody said explain it for real. Electrolytes, I think electrolytes are just your body needs things that I don't know if it's just minerals or there's like things that your body needs to produce or conduct electricity because your body needs it to send signals around your body, and you have to have things with it can't just be water, because water on its own you need electrolytes. There you go. Was that circular enough for you? I think it is to conduct electricity though, right? Because your nerves and everything rely on, I always say sodium ion chains, and I don't actually know if that's right. I should look that up again. But you need shit like this for your, to send signals around your body for it to communicate. And you have to have like electrolytes in your body to be able to produce this stuff or make it. I don't know. Sodium channels are integral membrane proteins that form ion channels connecting sodium ions through the cell's membrane. They belong to the super family of cation channels. It's not only for electricity, it's also for osmosis. Oh yeah, it might balance like the, does it help with your pH levels in your blood? Why do we need electrolytes? Electrolytes are substances that have a natural positive or negative electrical charge when dissolved in water. They help your body regulate chemical reactions, maintain the balance between fluids inside and outside your cells, and more. Electrolytes are substances that have a natural positive or negative electrical charge when dissolved in water. An adult's body is about 60% water, which means nearly every fluid and cell in your body contains electrolytes. They help your body regulate chemical reactions, maintain the balance between fluids inside and outside your cells, and more. Your body gets electrolytes or their components from what you eat and drink. Your kidneys filter excess electrolytes out of your body and into your urine. You also lose electrolytes when you sweat. There you go.
Just kind of want to eat the normal foods that are around, which a lot of them are super delicious, but not have to super rigidly like spend all the focus controlling them and dealing with hunger pains. So for those folks, especially ones that have gotten used to a diet of high palatability foods, you give them the shot, Ozempic, tirzepatide, whatever it is you want to do, and they lose weight because now all of a sudden their food drive, their food noise comes down substantially, psychologically. It's a real effect. And the shot works better than anything we've ever tried outside of surgery. In a statistical application level, it works better than diet and exercise. Now, ideally, the shot is combined with diet and exercise, and then it's a killer. But even by itself, it works better than just diet and exercise because people can sustain it longer, they don't quit as often, and it has really, really big effects. So until we can get a handle on obesity, and we also know that the average side effect profile of semaglutide, tirzepatide, et cetera, versus the risk profile of continuing to be obese is probably like a 99-to-1 trade-off of reward to risk, rather. So if someone's like, well, I don't know, the shot has side effects. Do you know what the side effects of obesity are? Let me list every single disease we know that is caused or potentiated excessively or has morbid outcomes with obesity. It's not a controversy. So until and unless we get this major problem of obesity under control, take the shot. You don't have to take the shot, but if it's an option, we as politicians and people of public note and people trying to teach each other science should not be poo-pooing the shot in most cases, because you got a solution for me that's going to work. It is not endocrine disrupting chemicals. It's not most of the other stuff he's going to say in the video. The shot is a straight killer. It works. And it works, guys, because It doesn't touch your conscientiousness. It absolutely touches your food drive. And if it reduces your food drive, it makes you lose weight. That's it. That's it. And a lot of the people judging fatter people for needing the shot, they're just the ones that got lucky and got really good food drive genetics and aren't really tempted to eat a lot of snacks. So the shot works, and until we have something that works better, let's not kibosh the shot. On a trade-off, it works exceptionally, exceptionally well.
What they're ignoring is a food supply.
Do you know why this guy's on massive steroids? I don't know if he's on gear anymore, or if he's on less than he used to be, but he used to, because he used to be into bodybuilding, right?
It's better. Let's not
I think he used to be cycling way heavier, but I don't know how much he does anymore, or if he still does much.
kibosh the shot. On a trade-off, it works exceptionally, exceptionally well.
What they're ignoring is a food supply that's loaded with high fructose corn syrup.
High fructose corn syrup is not any more obesogenic than any other kind of sugar that's been studied. Definitely cane sugar and all that other stuff. It has a slightly higher fraction of fructose than regular normal table sugar does, and it seems to not affect a whole lot of anything. It is subsidized, so it's cheaper than normal, which we'll come back to in a bit. It is a little bit of a problem, but a very small problem, because again, nobody's stuffing high fructose corn syrup down your gullet. Any one of you can go to the store right now and buy exclusively fruits, veggies, whole grains, canned beans, canned veggies of all kinds, reduced fat meats, and eat for a super cheap, very high quality diet. It's not going to be the tastiest thing in the world. It's not going to be obesogenic. You're almost certainly not going to gain weight off it. You'll probably lose weight. So there's no one pushing corn syrup onto you. They just put it into a bunch of snack foods that are really cheap that you're buying.
I'm going to be honest. No offense to any of you guys. I was shocked when I read that the average American consumes 3,600 calories a day. I still don't believe that. That is insane. That's wild. There is no shot that that's true. I still can't believe that. If you go into the PDF, find the relevant chart, and look up exactly what it's tracking, it's average dietary energy supply by region, which is measuring availability, not consumption. Oh, okay, wait, maybe they don't. It's important to note that the amount of food actually consumed may be lower than the quantity shown here, depending on the degree of losses of edible food and nutrients in the household, e.g. during storage or preparation. People on average in America and Europe are overeating, but not by 1,000 calories a day. I ran BMR calculations against the distribution of weights and heights. On average, people are hardly overeating at all. Even at a BMI of 40, the start of morbid obesity, people are only overeating by about 100 calories a day. North of 40, and excessive calories start adding or showing up. How did I determine this? I compared whether sedentary obese TDEE is to whether active normal weight TDEE would be, and they are roughly the same within 100 calories to get north of BMI 40, where food addiction is indicated. That's probably true. I feel like if you're getting to be big, I don't think you generally become obese in like 2 months. I think you're like gaining, like you got to think, if you gain like 2 pounds, 2 pounds is even. Let's say you gain 1 pound a month even. Yeah, that's only like, that's barely over 100 calories a day extra of eating. That's 12 pounds a year. In 10 years, that's over 100 pounds. That's like enough to move you like deep into obese territory, right? Like, yeah.
You're not the victim here, folks. It's your world to live in. You can have assistance from pharmacology. You can have assistance from nutritional education. But a lot of your assistance is going to come up from up here and be like, I need to make better choices. Sorry, I'm not a politician, so I get to say shit like that.
And seed oils.
Scott, hurt me. I got to feel. There's my trigger. Guys, seed oils have caused reliably in the scientific literature no detectable health maladies, accounting for their extra calories that they put into your food. The seed oil hypothesis is dead in the water. It's dead in the water. Seed oils cannot be reliably linked to any bad outcome. They just can't. And if you have a group of rigorous studies to send me, dope. If you say, yeah, but all these guys are bought and sold, sweet. Do you have your own independent agency that's going to do very, very objectively transparent research? I would love to see it. So far, all attempts of that have still found absolutely nothing at all to blame it on. And here's the thing, guys, just real talk. Like, let's clear all the knowledge out of our head super quick. We'll bring it back in a second. Just go like, just on vibes. I want you to do a little experiment with me. If we replaced all of the junk food and mac and cheese and fried eggs and everything people are eating, donuts, ice cream, etc. We took out all the seed oils and we replaced all that with butter and cheese. Do you guys think that like all of a sudden the obesity epidemic is gone? I mean, are you kidding me? You're gonna see someone like at a restaurant taking huge chunk, big cut fries, the delicious ones, and dipping them into like cheese sauce and then mayo and then ketchup, why not, and putting them down the gullet by the pounds. And you're like, hey, sir, I'm just concerned. Are there seed oils in there? Like, this is all seed oil free, man, regular animal fat. And they're like, oh, carry on. My God, you must really care about your health. Stop looking for little tiny nuances that can excuse you out of eating junk food. You want
Fuck, I think his take's gonna be copy pasted from mine. He's copying the DGG take.
Eat nasty. I get it, I do too. I love it. Mac and cheese with all that crap on top, French fries, burgers. It tastes amazing. But it's because it tastes amazing. It's because it's loaded with calories, because you overeat it. That's why you get fat and unhealthy. It's not the seed oils, folks. We didn't lost that football on the way to the you know what I'm saying, on the way to go get the touchdown with it. We just fumbled somewhere. It's not around. It just doesn't make any sense. So the more we keep focusing on seed oils, the more we miss out on the fact that like it's just a bunch of the junk you're eating. Joe Rogan makes a good, his idea of seed oil is, I think, in my opinion, quite wrong. But he also makes a great point, is it gets all that pasta you're eating. He's not talking about bodybuilding pasta. He's not talking about a little bit of olive oil and some dill and then a bunch of spaghetti with like some clean chicken on the, no, hell no. We're talking about Alfredo, fettuccine, parmesan, carbonara, that stuff. That's just a ton of really awesome food you're going to cram down and gain weight. That's how that works. It's the tons of food that's super tasty, that's junky, that we're eating all the time. That's what it is, fellas. I wish it was different.
Ignore a skewed system of subsidies and make these unnatural, ultra-processed foods cheap.
The subsidies thing is the real thing. Subsidies absolutely do occur, and they're a money pit. And almost all economists agree that food subsidies are a gigantic waste of time. I'll have to say, politically, because RFK does work in a Republican administration, The vast majority of the states that have food subsidies signed into law are Republican voting red states in the farming areas of the United States.
Damn.
If you guys want to cancel farming subsidies, you're going to have to go up against that. I think it's a good idea to go up against it because farming subsidies are absolutely absurd on every economic analysis. But that's a Republican problem in many cases. Now, look, I'm not a Republican. I'm not a Democrat. I'm very independent and mostly libertarian. I'm for freedom and getting rich and all that other good stuff. But you got to call a spade at some point. Like, there's your people preventing this, so get to it. There is no conspiracy. It's just a lot of farmers and farming corporations that like free money, so they're pro-subsidy. And anytime you try to push back against them, they're like, oh, you're against the American farmer and you're risking our food supply. It's actually in reverse, but that is what it is. So it's not like some kind of giant conspiracy over there. It's actually very, very straight up that they just want more stuff and want a less competitive environment. That being said, I'm all for it. Removing subsidies would be great. However,
is it true that economists don't like food subsidies? I've never heard this claim before. I mean, economists probably just don't like most subsidies, so that's probably true. I've heard one good defense of food subsidies in the United States ever, and that's that you don't want to have your, you don't want farmers to be trying to guess how much food we'll need from season to season. So it's always better to overproduce. So you always subsidize it, because if they miss, you don't want like people going hungry or starving or something, which I'm sure to some extent that's true. But I feel like the subsidies for corn are way, 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 way over. Somebody in chat said it earlier. Like, it wouldn't surprise me if most corn that we grew weren't even for human eating purposes anymore, or at least eating corn. Actually, even for eating, period. I wonder if more goes into like ethanol fuel than what people even eat. I don't know. Well, we can check. What percentage of corn is eaten in the United States? Oh, I wonder, or most of it might even just be for feeding animals. Major feed grains are corn, sorghum, barley. This is not a real thing. Barley and oats. Corn is the primary U.S. feed grain, accounting for more than 90% of total feed grain production and use. Most of the crop is used domestically as the main energy ingredient in livestock feed and for fuel ethanol production. Wait, is this real? Am I reading this right? U.S. domestic corn use. Other food, seed, and industrial use. That's not the corn that we eat, right? Feed and residual use is for animals, right? And then alcohol for fuel use. Wait, so what part of this is just human food consumption? Other food? Is it on other food? I didn't know if this is all related to industrial stuff. That'd be pretty funny if that was the case, though. So, like, we barely even eat this shit. We just give it to our animals. Aside from fuel ethanol, corn is also processed for human consumption.
however, if you remove subsidies for corn syrup and stuff like that, the mega food conglomerates like McDonald's and Kraft Foods, et cetera, they still have to make all the same junk food you're buying because, drum roll, you keep buying it. And they're going to want to make it as cheap as possible. So yeah, they might have to increase some of their prices by 5 or 10 cents here or there, or 20 or 30 cents here or there. But after finding alternative sources and ramping production and scaling on that, they're going to bring the prices back down anyway. So it's like a very temporary solution. Now, of course, subsidies are a giant waste of money, and we could be using that money in 50 other different ways, including in just taxing Americans less and giving everyone who's hardworking back more money. But at the same time, it's not going to be this thing that like resolves the problem. Remember, the genesis, the very seed of the problem is that you, that's right, you and me, like to eat really tasty foods that have tons of calories for really cheap, that are really convenient. Capitalism is going to vector all the arrows down to that. You can't cancel capitalism because then your phone doesn't work and your car doesn't work and there's no food and everyone's starving to death. That's not an option. We got to work on ourselves and be like, what kind of choices do we want to make? Can we take some pharmacology? Maybe that's good, maybe that's not.
True. Hold on. Important shout out from Big Corn.
Let's see, we got some soy protein isolate right here. I eat this every day. We got lentils, this is the bulk of my diet. Got oats here, got nutritional yeast. Tell me, which of these products contain corn, dude? Huh? I eat corn?
Hey, go get the rest of it.
Really? Okay, sure, I'll get my entire kitchen.
Richard,
What?
you calm down, you're scaring the fucking animals.
I'll get my entire goddamn kitchen. Let's see.
You're scaring the animals.
Yeah.
Can you calm down?
Yeah.
You're screaming like crazy.
Yeah, okay.
Stop.
I feel bad for his wife.
Okay, let's see. Tell me. Here's some yellow. Oh no, this is brown rice. Does brown rice contain corn? Let's see what else. We got a sack of potatoes here. Do potatoes contain corn? Yellow split peas. Is this corn? Oh, I got green peas. Is this corn? Where's the goddamn corn, dude? Tell me where the corn is.
There's some more back there. Go get it.
You.
Can we exercise a bit more? Maybe that's good, maybe that's not. Can we pick the right kinds of foods at the store and tell ourselves we're mostly going to be eating healthy foods and we're going to care about our weight? Yeah, probably. But the whole idea of like, well, as soon as you get rid of subsidies, millions of Americans will get leaner. Like, yeah, they would if they trained right to gain muscle. But there's so much idea of like, well, as soon as you get rid of subsidies, millions of Americans will get leaner. Like, yeah, they would if they trained right to gain muscle. But there's so much complexity to it. What exercises to choose, what sets and reps to do, how much weight to lift, and how to structure your weekly plan.
How the could you ever figure out the answer to all of these questions? It's impossible.
So much uncertainty that it's easy to get overwhelmed. The RP Hypertrophy app removes all
Holy shit, they have an app for it.
uncertainty and makes the training process precisely defined. Choose your pre-made workout plan from dozens available in the app, plug in your weights, and the app takes care of the rest from months of productive training. Ready? Click on the link in the description of this video to get started. Overeating hyper tasty foods that have tons of calories is the reason we have an obesity epidemic. That's that node, the central core governor of what's going on. And unless you got something for that, I don't know what's going to happen.
They ignore chemical contamination from pesticides that is wreaking havoc on our body.
Pesticides have been studied into the ground by professional toxicologists. And I would Google or ask ChatGPT or ask Grok, what do professional toxicologists think about pesticides and their effect on health? We've studied this in the ground. Mass pesticide exposure explains almost no variance in almost anything. Can we reduce our pesticide exposure a little bit for a little bit more gain? Yeah, probably, just by a tiny bit. But the idea that pesticides are causing mass health maladies and are somehow related to obesity is just a non-starter. We've already looked into it in insane amounts. And if you want to look into yourself, the empirical data is crystal clear. I would love it, guys. I would love it. I have no specific attachment to agro businesses. I have no specific attachment to pesticide manufacturing corporations. I don't like the idea of eating pesticides any more than anybody else. So I'm not here to try to say pesticides are great. You should have as many of them as possible. No. It's just the reality that while, like many of you watching, I would want to blame one single factor or some simple ones. Like if we just notice RFK's thing is removing things. We remove the seed oils, we remove the artificial ingredients, we remove the pesticides, and we remove food subsidies. And all of a sudden, we're going to really make a huge dent on the obesity epidemic. Bullshit. This is not going to happen because it hasn't stood up to the evidence and we've collected a ton. What is going to reduce obesity is drugs that help people control their food drive, and then working with people on expressing their conscientiousness more to make better choices, and maybe some other regulatory stuff on a little bit of that 20% side. This is really going to be what's going to do obesity in. It's sure not going to be any of those things. If it was going to be those things, I would be in the first saying to be like, get rid of trans fats. Were pretty bad for you. We got rid of them. I think that was a great decision. Trans fats. Seed oils are not trans fats, and neither are artificial flavoring.
Did we get rid of what were trans fats again? I feel like I learned this at one point in time and then I forgot. Did this tie into red meats as well or no? I forgot what trans fats are. Trans fats. You eat several kind of dietary fats in your diet. Some are good for you, others not so much. Trans fats are trans fatty acids. They're a type of fat that fall into the unhealthy category because they can increase your risk of heart disease and they have no known health benefits. Damn. Trans fats exist in two general forms. One type of trans fat occurs naturally in small amounts in some meat and dairy products. This type of trans fat forms in the guts of some animals and is present in food that comes from them. The other type, which is the main source of trans fats, is processed foods. It's artificially added as partially hydrogenated oil. This type of trans fat is produced by adding hydrogen to vegetable oils to make them more solid. Some companies use trans fats because processed foods last longer on a grocery or pantry shelf. Also, trans fats are cheap to make, can be reused in restaurant fryers, and can add flavor and texture to some foods. Damn, what kind of fat is in Soylent? Am I getting fucked? Is it all trans fats? Saturated fat, 2.5 grams. Oh, but it's 24 grams of total fat, so only 2.5 are saturated. Okay, that's okay, right? Trans fats, 0 grams. It's not a good plan to switch from consuming trans fats to saturated fats, both linked to heart disease. You should limit saturated fat to about 5 to 6% or less of your daily intake of calories, which comes to 13 grams if you eat 2,000 calories a day. Is there trans or saturated fat in milk? Low-fat dairy products. 2% milk nutrition information. Oh, that's another 3 grams of saturated fat. What the That's okay. We're still under. But where do you buy your Soylent from? I can't find that shit anywhere. It might be a leaf issue, but I can't buy in bulk. I think it's illegal to sell Soylent in Canada because I think Soylent markets itself as a meal replacement drink. And I think that in Canada, I think the regulation is that you, if you market yourself as a meal replacement thing, they have a limit on what percentage of total calories are allowed to come from fats. Destiny, it's legal now? Oh, well, maybe they changed it, then never mind. But that used to be an issue because I think too high of a percentage of total calories came from fats in Soylent, so they weren't allowed to market there as a meal replacement thing. But now people are saying they do sell it, so maybe not. Okay. Should unironically ban shit like this. Bro. Oreo fudge brownie blizzard treat. Wait, how large is this? 25 grams of protein? Okay, for 1,400 calories, that's not good. But is this for, what size is this for? Is this for a large? Oh, I see. It's large as highlighted here. Sorry. I think one of the issues that Dr. Mike, Evil Mike, brought this up in our chat that I super agree with is I really do think that labeling foods in the United States with like stickers would be such a great, powerful mental idea for just helping you pick better foods. Because you don't really think in the US when you're like picking food. It's just not like a thing that's at the front of your mind. This looks like retard shit. But I feel like I saw this in the United Kingdom. Maybe it was in Sweden. Maybe it was somewhere else. Health stickers. Maybe I should be looking for health labels. I think because you kind of feel like shit when you like pick up a thing and it's got like all red stickers on it and you're like, and then you put it back and you get something with better stickers on it. Like it sounds retarded, but shit like this I think is incredibly effective because I should just pick the green shit. Mexico does this? Oh, they might actually. I think actually multiple South American countries might do this. Oh, but theirs are like black if it exceeds certain things. Yeah. These would be good to have on food. I think another issue too is that like Americans have an issue where you view, are there any Eurocucks in chat? They're not going to believe this. But I feel like in America, you view some things as just being like part of a meal. Like you would say this to kids. I've had this said to me like, okay, if you eat all your food, you can have a Blizzard, or if you eat all your food, you can have, you know, this thing. Like it's like dessert is like part of the meal rather than a thing to be enjoyed incredibly sparingly. Like I feel like these types of things like that, that Oreo, not a McFlurry, the Blizzard, like those should be treated like recreational drugs. These are some things that you do like sparingly that are a ton of fun. You understand that they're like not the best for you, but like you do them in moderation, responsibly, whatever.